What's going on, Eagles fans? Another episode of Eagles Latest coming your way here on Fan Art. I'm your host, Cory Nidoh. Well, the Philadelphia Eagles are continuing to trudge along here this offseason. They made yet another small signing on a developmental linebacker, and Nick Sirianni had his roundtable at the NFL owners' meetings, and that is where we are going to start on today's episode. So Nick Sirianni, like every coach out in Phoenix at the NFL owners' meeting, has a roundtable with pretty much local media, some national media as well. And it's about 25 minutes long, 30 minutes long, and Nick Sirianni tackled a bunch of different topics. Gonna hit on some of the key ones that I thought stood out to me. And of course, just like Howie Roseman, Nick Sirianni was asked about A.J. Brown's status and what the offense could look like without him moving forward. And Nick Sirianni pretty much reiterated the same that Howie Roseman said, that A.J. Brown is an Eagle, and Nick Sirianni also said nothing's changed from the last time I spoke to you guys, and yeah, that's where we are. Now, there's some people that are going to take that as, oh, well, the Eagles, when they speak in generic formalities like that in the past, that means that the player is most likely not going to stay with the team. Meanwhile, you had Derek Gunn hop on 97.5 The Fanatic yesterday and basically say that all this is kind of BS and that A.J. Brown loves Philly and he's never come out and said that he wanted a trade. And Derek Gunn is one of the most in-tuned insiders with the Philadelphia Eagles. So, wherever you may stand on it, again, this is never going to go away until the season is really here, to be honest. But Nick Sirianni and Howie Roseman basically on the same page saying that A.J. Brown is still a Philadelphia Eagle and nothing has changed in that regard. Now, I thought what was interesting as well, a little side topic from the Sirianni discussion, is that Kay Adams had the general manager of the New England Patriots on her show, Up and Adams, and she asked pretty much straight up, hey, what's the deal with A.J. Brown? And Elliot Wolf said A.J. Brown is a member of the Eagles, as Howie mentioned yesterday. We haven't had any conversations about anything regarding that in a long time. So I thought that was pretty telling. Maybe Wolf is keeping it close to the chest and he doesn't want to really divulge in anything, but what is a long time in terms of discussion? Is it 10 days? Is it a couple of weeks? Is it a month? So we'll see what happens. But those were the comments made by A.J. Brown. Nick Sirianni also said that you should include A.J. Brown in the offense moving forward. Said that they don't have a 1A or a 1B when asked if Devontae Smith could be the number one if A.J. Brown leaves. He says, we don't have a 1A, 1B. We have two number ones. So, take that for what you will. The Eagles obviously would need to add more to that wide receiver room if they end up moving from A.J. Brown. Sirianni did mention that he does like the additions of Hollywood Brown and Elijah Moore. He said when you have good competition, it raises the level of everybody, and he thinks those guys add to it. He loves their speed, their ability to go in and out of breaks and create separation, how they are with the ball in their hands. So he said that he's pretty excited about the additions of Hollywood Brown and Elijah Moore to the wide receiver room. Moving on and sticking with Sirianni, he did kind of put out the fire, if you will, that Jeff Stoutland would be returning in any type of capacity. On a recent appearance on the Fitz and Wit podcast, Lane Johnson said he thought that the legendary offensive line coach would be around in, quote, some capacity this season. But, this podcast Stout said he hasn't had a conversation with anybody about that. And based on what Sirianni said yesterday, it certainly seems like there won't be a role for Jeff Stoutland moving forward. Nick Sirianni went on and said, obviously, we moved on with our staff, really enjoyed working with these guys, obviously love the guys that are no longer part of our staff, and we will always have a relationship with those guys with everything they've done for our football team. But right now, we're focused on the upcoming year with this staff. There's so many steps that you have to go through to get yourself ready for OTAs, to get yourself ready for training camp, to get yourself ready for phase one. And he kind of gives the typical long-winded Nick Sirianni answer. But he certainly didn't leave the door open for a possibility that Jeff Stoutland would return to the coaching staff in a smaller capacity. Obviously, there was a lot to be made about Jeff Stoutland leaving the team. So we'll see how the new staff does, how they are able to develop and continue to manufacture a top offensive line unit, which obviously was decimated with injuries and lack of production. That was a big reason why Philadelphia struggled, obviously, last year. But we'll see what Stoutland does. Does he latch on with another team? Does he want to just stay semi-retired? But it does seem like Jeff Stoutland, for the time being, doesn't really have a role with Philadelphia here heading into the 2026 season. Some other topics that Nick Sirianni mentioned on top of Stoutland, he was talking about how he likes to have his team play with an edge. They brought in a cornerback, Enrique Woolen from Seattle, who certainly has an edge and sometimes lets emotions get the best of him. We saw it on the big stage in the NFC Championship game where he was flagged for a taunting call that nearly cost the Seahawks a trip to the Super Bowl. But Nick Sirianni kind of defended that type of play within reason, said that he'll never have a problem with somebody being too edgy. I love that because I know that you can see that and be like, this guy loves football, this guy loves to compete, and I'll always take a guy who loves football to compete any day of the week. So Sirianni did say that the Eagles are an edgy team. He wants his players to show excitement and personalities, and his job as the head coach is to explain the rules and make sure that they know where the line is. So thought that was a bit of an interesting tidbit. We've seen Nick Sirianni obviously coach with a ton of emotion. Some people like it, some people don't, but it's certainly evident that Nick Sirianni does prefer his team to play with that edge, with that emotion. Sirianni also somewhat provided a update on Jihad Campbell's rehab. Obviously, Vic Fangio earlier in the year revealed that the second-year linebacker was rehabbing a shoulder injury and will miss most of this offseason. And Nick Sirianni just had a lot of complimentary things to say about Campbell. Said that he has a relentless pursuit. He loves football. Very obvious through the draft process last year and spending the year with him. He loves football, and basically he just said it's so important to be healthy because you can't get better every day unless you're healthy. It's part of it. And so it does seem like Campbell is going to be using that tenacious mindset to get through this rehab, and the Eagles need him because they let Nakobe Dean walk, and he signed a multi-year deal, to play with the Las Vegas Raiders. So we'll keep an eye on Campbell's status as the offseason continues. Again, the second-year linebacker expected to be in the starting lineup consistently in 2026. However, it may take him a little longer to get up to speed, depending on how much time he misses, even though we know that he'll probably miss the bulk of the offseason. We'll see where it leads up leading into OTAs and training camp. Last but not least, speaking of linebackers, the Eagles once again signed another linebacker in Chandler Martin to a 2-year deal. This is, again, another developmental type signing for Philadelphia. He was on the practice squad with the Baltimore Ravens last year. He's 23 years old, was undrafted out of Memphis a season ago. He was elevated for 3 games and played 34 snaps on special teams in those 3 games. So, again, not a whole lot to talk about. Obviously, he is more of a depth piece, but it will be interesting to see what he might turn into, if anything, but the Eagles do again make a marginal signing and add to that linebacking room. So that's been kind of the MO for Howie Roseman so far here this offseason. Obviously, the conversation around Jonathan Grenard is continuing. The problem with Grenard is that not only do you have to trade assets, but then you're going to have to also sign him to a new deal, and that kind of makes things a little bit trickier, and it makes it a little bit more expensive as well. So we'll see what Philadelphia does. Grenard and the Eagles seem to have been linked for the last few weeks. I don't know what Howie Roseman wants to do. Maybe they attack the draft and go after an edge rusher. They certainly need one regardless, and maybe they opt to go with a little bit of a more cost-efficient solution and scoop up one of the top edge rushers in the draft, knowing how expensive that defensive side is going to get with contracts going to have to go out to, obviously, Quinyon Mitchell and Cooper DeJean and others. So, again, Chandler Martin, a linebacker, practice squad guy, relatively new to the league, only 23 years old, and he is now a Philadelphia Eagle. That will do it for this episode of Eagles Latest. As always, I appreciate you watching and tuning in. Hit that like button, drop a comment, and smash the subscribe button as well, and we will have more Eagles talk coming your way tomorrow.